Here we are. Sorry about the delay. Um, as is always the case when you move from indoors to outdoors, there's a bit of a transitionary period. So, like I say, thank you everyone for coming over and joining us again on this secondary attempt at a good morning indoor walk. Because I don't know if you are in the UK at the moment, but as they say on Ferenginar, it's glemoning out of there. Literally. Uh, it was a good job. Like I say, I decided, I think, to turn around when I did, because it is absolutely bucking it down. Um, yeah. But anyway, we shall continue on as always. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Indoor Walk. Like I say, thank you very much for everyone coming along to join us. Like I say, please do remember to click on the like button. That helps us out all the time. And of course, remember to click on the share button as well for all those again, people sort of joining us, rejoining us. Like I say, good morning if I always say good morning to you, if not good morning in the case. So yeah. Yeah, a lot of stuff to really talk about this morning. Oh, Bakura, you're building a gunpla, are you? Ooh. I've always thought about building those, but then I've built some, and some have been really annoying. Others have been when it's come to it. But yeah, good morning, and like I say, let's crack on into this, because to be honest, there is some interesting stuff going on. This first one indeed. Oh boy. Oh boy, it's yeah, this is certainly going to have repercussions. This is going to have repercussions ultimately. Sabine, south of France, hot and sunny. We need the rain. Well, we've got it. We've got it in spades at the moment. You've absolutely got it. Well, it's going to be like this all day apparently. So, but as I said, the first thing I wanted to cover is this, because this has not, I think, really been picked up by a lot of people in sort of the Western media. But this has been picked up by a few people, especially in sort of mostly Eastern Europe, mostly in Ukraine. But you have had here a Russian spiring try to plot to sabotage, derail, and blow up Ukrainian aid trains heading to Ukraine. Now, this is pretty serious. Along with the Black Sea point at the moment that's going on, it's still not resolved, but yeah. And if you've been following this Ukraine war since the beginning, then you know that Poland is like ready to go. They are ready. They are just up for it. Also recently you've had Wagner troops heading to Belarus that apparently are now stationed along the Polish border. So Poland in response has moved their troops. So I believe the vernacular here is what is it? Fuck around and find out. It certainly seems that's what Russia seems to be doing. And oh boy, are they going to find out, because if you've been watching Poland throughout the past, since this invasion has kicked off, they have been like stocking up. Like, they are seriously stocked up on all kinds of new weapons, even stuff that America hasn't yet built. They are stocked up on this. So yeah, Poland is ready to go. It is ready to rock and roll. It has been for a long time, and they are looking for any excuse, to be honest, to certainly roll into Kaliningrad, probably into Belarus as well, and of course straight into Ukraine. And should they do that, well, it's game over for Putin if Poland decides to get involved. They don't even have to call in Article 5 for the rest of NATO, to be honest, because I think they are that ready to go, to be honest. But we're going to go over this story because I think it's pretty important, really, to go over this because it's just hasn't really got a lot of attention. I think some of it is mostly is unconfirmed what is going on. But if this does turn out to be a Russian saboteur ring, as it's being reported, this is going to have pretty significant consequences. So, a Russian intelligence network that has planned to blow up trains and weapons and humanitarian aid destined for Ukraine has been exposed in Poland, in Kielce Polska, reported back on July the 18th. The Polish Internal Security Agency, together along with the Lublin office of National Prosecutor's Office, dismantled the largest intelligence network in Poland's history. So think about this. This isn't just a saboteur ring. This is a massive intelligence gathering network that has been operating in Poland, and they have taken this down. And I wouldn't be surprised if this has had input from US sources as well, because if you've seen very recently, both the CIA and MI6 have actually put out adverts in Russian, which basically said, "Hey, look, if you've got secrets, come and sell them to us. You'll get asylum here in the UK or America. We'll treat you like we'll treat you like an absolute king. We're ready and open to listen to what you've got to tell us." So there seems to be a lot of sense of intelligence leaking coming from Russia, to be honest. If they are openly saying that, then it does seem like there's going to be a lot of information coming out from Russia. So, reportedly, a total of 15 people were detained in the country from March to July on 2023 with charges of spying for Russian military intelligence. They face up to 10 years in prison. The detainees are citizens of Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. They've received tasks from remote execution directly from Moscow, and then, after completing them, collect remuneration in cryptocurrencies, mostly Bitcoin, which will then exchange for cash, the statement said. And this is interesting. This is something that is worth following up, because how much assets out there are in the crypto sphere, which are actually, Russian government money? Has the Russian government committed to turning some of its remaining capital, because the ruble is taking colossal tumbles, into Bitcoin? Because I'll tell you what, if that's true, that's kind of shocking that you're going to try and pay people in Bitcoin. And probably something we should be looking into, because if it's true that the Russians have started to use Bitcoin, maybe as a way of bypassing sanctions, then maybe we need to look into things like sanctioning Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies quickly, so that we can cut off another asset that Russia is using to try and fund their war. So something we should probably be looking into. Earlier, the Ukraine Security Service conducted a very large-scale operation in several regions of Ukraine, also detaining members of the FSB agency network. So yeah, this is pretty significant, because if this does turn out to be Russian FSB agents, this pretty much could constitute an act of war, because this is sabotaging, military aid destined to Ukraine, and of course, it's being done inside Poland. Poland is not going to be very happy, and they are not pleased, and they are especially not pleased about the movements of Wagner either. There's a lot of talk about maybe Wagner trying to encourage a clash between Belarus and Poland. That might be part of the reason why they've sort of moved there. That might be part of the reason to try and sort of expand the area of conflict. But to be honest, bringing Poland into this isn't a smart idea. As we've said, if you've been watching this war, Poland has like stocked up. They are committing to like the F-35 program. They've bought like a ton of HIMARS systems. They are buying tons of weapon systems from America. They are like stocked and ready to go. The last people you want to be messing around with, to be honest, is Poland. And hey, you know what is it? You f around and find out. Well, Russia might find that if they mess around with Poland, they're certainly going to find out very, very quickly. That is for sure. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Maggie Pie, indoor walk, yes. As they say, I've already made this joke, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's a good Star Trek joke. As they say in on Ferenginar, it's gleaming out there, and they've got 12 words for raining. So, yeah, it is absolutely tipping it down. Probably going to tip it down like this for the rest of the day, which is not very good because I wanted to go and do stuff today. But oh well, never mind. But um yeah, this is to be honest, pretty significant in the way that this could happen. This does mark a serious escalation. And once again, I want to make sure whenever there has been a genuine level of escalation, it has been Russia that has been primarily responsible for causing that escalation. I want to stress this because there's still a lot of people that just don't understand that the problem in this situation is not NATO, it's not Poland, it's not America, it's Russia. Basically trying to sort of really flex its military muscle here. But this is pretty important. I think it's a new story that really hasn't been covered over here. But yeah, if this turns out to be true, yeah, it's going to be pretty serious. It's going to be pretty serious, to be honest, because Poland is going to respond in some way. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But more news closer to home. As you know, there we go. We've had a by-election. And to be honest, the results from this by-election were pretty good. They were pretty spectacular. We got 2 out of 3. And it was it was one of them that I thought was going to be the hardest battle. And that was, of course, going to be Selby up in North Yorkshire. And they did it. They overturned a massive majority. In fact, they achieved a 26% swing. Is it 26 or 24? I can't remember now. But they achieved a pretty good swing. They achieved a pretty good swing in this election. As a lot of people have said, if this swing is repeatable in a general election or even achieved in a general election, it's lights out for the Tories. You know, we talk about them returning with like less than 100 seats. Well, that's less than 100 seats territory if that can be achieved. So there's now talk, of course, about Rishi Sunak trying to eye up a potential autumn 2024 general election. Now, why does he want an autumn 2024 general election? Well, to be honest, this gives him pretty much almost another year in office to, well, hopefully, as his might hope, try and steady the ship and at least minimize the losses. But as we've said before, this Tory government is so incompetent. There's probably going to be a cabinet reshuffle, probably coming back into September, where we get back into it. But it's who do you bring in? If you may remember when we covered the article in Conservative Home about the by-elections yesterday, you read that comment and it was pretty clear from a Conservative source who said, you know, the party has been listening to these fringe lunatics that have no idea and are completely incompetent when it really comes to the actual job. They've talked a big game, but when it's come to it, they've failed consistently, time and time again. So we'll see. Diane, good morning from Texas. Good morning to you. Like I say, welcome everyone to the indoor morning walk today. We did try this morning. That's why there is a good morning walk video, but well, it's absolutely bucketing it down, as we say up here in Yorkshire. So um why haven't you sent rain yet? We haven't got that yet. Yep, scribbly. Yeah, to overturn a North Yorkshire seat is unheard of. I'd say that being originally from South Yorkshire myself. Yeah, those seats in North Yorkshire are like the the Tories version of the blue wall down south. So if they're going to lose those seats, it's pretty significant. It is pretty significant because it is becoming very, very clear that your average your average Tory voter is first of all being turned off from voting Tory. They are switching from the Conservatives to Liberal Democrats, or they're going to the Labour, which again is good because, like I say, less votes for the Tories, and they are doing so in significant numbers. Not only that, I haven't managed to confirm it yet, but it does look like that turnout once again on the Tory side has played into some of these big victories. I can't at the moment, or at least haven't managed to work out if it is that missing 10%, as we've sometimes talked about. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, but it's going to happen. I think in quite significant numbers. It is going to be much to the Tories' detriment. So we'll see what happens. But as I talked about yesterday, I think the certainly Uxbridge shows tactical voting. We need to commit to it, and that people really need to commit to it, because if the Greens and the Lib Dems, those that they had won, that's well over 1,000 extra votes that could have gone to Labour, and they would have won it. And what worries me in a general election is you get this Uxbridge repeated in a number of seats where the Tories should have lost, but because of I don't like Keir Starmer, or Labour are just Tory light, this attitude that seems to be permeating from the upset Corbynistas, because that's pretty much where this is coming from. Because when you ask them and you question them about what Labour should do, they literally get to the answer of, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have got rid of Corbyn." That's it. But yeah, big problems, of course, in that area, in that regard. Doesn't surprise me. But this is where they're coming from. But what matters here is that was a seat I was watching for this exact reason. Because if it does happen, this can be repeated in other seats. And especially the Tories have to be worried now about votes going to the Lib Dems, about votes going to Labour. But Uxbridge has shown that if you can find a local minimal issue that if you can get, quote, on the right side of, in this case, the ULEZ, you might be able to squeak a win. And of course, this is where we've said before, tactical voting comes into play. If the Lib Dems and the Greens had committed to tactical voting, which they often say, "Oh yes, we're committed to tactical voting," and then they very clearly didn't. Yes, in very low numbers, but like I say, it does look like this was definitely a seat where all these votes counted. and unfortunately, we lost by like 400 and I think it was like 460 something. So it was close. It was very close. But this could have been a complete 3-0 win, and unfortunately, um, it wasn't. So it's a bit frustrating. I will agree. But to be honest, the seats that were won will have an impact. But we were close. But anyway, thank you very much, Maggie Pie. Will the Tories say the B word out loud soon? I'm presuming you're saying the Brexit word. I don't know. Potentially, I think they're not there yet. I think they're going to try and certainly make the case during Brexit. I wouldn't be surprised, but we'll see. Ratmash, I think they know that they've lost no matter what. It's probably now down to how much they can best loot the public purse for themselves and how much they can scorch the earth for Labour. I think that's very true. I think that's very, very true. Jess Hunt, winning in Uxbridge is easy. You just say that you're going to have a massive tyre and oil and endangered species bonfire on every street. They hate oxygen in their air there. Well, this is one of the things that got reported by local Lib Dems who were campaigning on the doorstep, that when they were going and talking to people about ULEZ and explaining why this situation is going on, they were getting converts, that they were getting people over, that they were actually turning people onto being pro ULEZ. Because first of all, the environmental benefits around ULEZ obvious. The next big problem is that this isn't a creation of Labour, as the as the Tories are trying to say. This was created by Boris Johnson. This was created by him when he was in Mayor of London. Although, to be honest, it was probably created by one of his advisors. That's giving Boris Johnson far, far too much credit, to be honest, when he was Mayor of London. But that's where the ULEZ sort of came from Boris Johnson's time in office down in London. Back in 2020, when London really desperately needed COVID cash for Transport for London from Grant Shapps, a condition for getting this cash was the expansion of ULEZ. So not Rishi Sunak, Sadiq Khan is only doing this because this is a condition for him receiving COVID cash, which will help to run Transport for London. So that's why this is happening. Will this rollout of the ULEZ continue? I think it will. I think maybe it will be slowed down, which I think will be a big disappointment. But bear in mind, you go up to Birmingham, where you're seeing the exact same time of a program being rolled out, but because it's a Conservative mayor, there's, shall we say, being very little quiet around that being made, of course. So there's a lot of real politics going on here. However, this is being seen by a lot of the net zero skeptics, by the Tories, as an excuse to push Rishi Sunak into trying to get rid of net zero policies and, of course, green commitments that the Tories have made. And of course, there is a pushback from the Green Tories, which I said before, they do exist. So they're pushing back against these Tories to drop this and saying that, hey, you shouldn't be dropping these environmental stuff because it's actually a big concern for a lot of people. It's actually in a lot of voters' minds in and around this and the environment. So we'll see what happens and how this battle takes place. But this is going to be, I think, one of the big it's going to be one of the big points of, I think, contention during the summer. The Tories arguing about these green things, and this will be because of this by-election in Uxbridge. So this is going to have consequences on things like this. And to be honest, if Labour want to get a big win on this, then this is a case where they can win. Labour have a lot of green policies to roll out. So it's just them sort of starting to talk more about this and saying what they would do and what their green policies are. And they've got a lot. Like I say, Rachel Reeves going to be the greenest chancellor we've ever had, and Ed Miliband as well spearheading a lot of green initiatives. I have a lot of hopes, to be honest, for a Labour government in introducing a lot of green initiatives that are going to be very good, not only for the environment here in the UK, but also business-wise as well. As we create, as we've said before, we have to create new green technologies of the future. This has already been done in the EU. You've already had the Inflation Reduction Act in America. Again, focusing on building new green factories, new green technologies over the future. It's going to have a massive impact on their economies. And meanwhile, we're being left behind. This is being covered by numerous business magazines. Businesses are crying out for the government to do something around this. And at the moment, they're doing nothing because, say it with me, the Tories are so divided, they cannot make their minds up what they want to do, because if one side wants to do net zero, the other side doesn't want to do net zero. And then there's arguments about how they do net zero, even though they know they want to do it. so yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's a rare Tory idea that isn't awful, and Tory voters therefore hate it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. For yours to work, you need to fund more carrots, not just use a stick. This is what a lot of people are saying, that the big revolt from ULEZ is people in poor, disadvantaged areas, because they're worried about the cost and the consequences of of having to give up their petrol car. Electric cars are still quite expensive to run. The infrastructure's still not there in a lot of areas. What do you do about people who don't have driveways? How do they put a charge point in? What do they do? There's still a lot of questions in and around, to be honest, getting to net zero, which still haven't been answered. But that's because, again, we've got a Tory government who really isn't interested in shall we say, pursuing those green policies. But anyway, we're going to get into this because this is going to have, as I said, a lot of consequences down the road for green policies, especially the more we have these Tories in charge, the more they're going to get desperate and do, well, ridiculous things like this. And yeah, you're exactly right. We do need to fund more public transport. Maggie Pie, exactly. This is what I've always said. We need more public transport, not just trains, but we need more buses. We need to look at tram networks as well. So, yeah, that's what we need to really, really look about for this. Scribbly, the danger around ULEZ is that it's mainly London-centric. So it does need to be handled carefully, as a lot of people are very disgruntled with policies focusing on London. Again, very true, but one of the things that we said just a moment ago, ULEZ is being done up in Birmingham. So this is already being rolled out up in Birmingham. But Birmingham, remember, has a Conservative mayor. So do you think the Conservatives are gonna risk his chance? Exactly. So hang on, tell you what, we'll go. Is that? There we go. That's better. So this comes from, oh look, it's Watkinson again. Again, this is Conservative Home talking about this, and like I say, this is pretty going to be, I think, an issue we see talked about heavily over the summer, especially as we see more and more stuff about this talked about. So, ULEZ is the acronym on everyone's lips today. Following the Conservatives' unexpected outside of Conservative Home, naturally, again, it wasn't many people on Conservative Home, because again, I read Conservative Home, were saying that Uxbridge might indeed actually fall to it. Even as we said yesterday and actually covered it, they were even shocked that they managed to win Uxbridge. So that's not true. Squeaking home in Uxbridge and South Ruislip last night. Angela Rayner has herself said that Sadiq Khan has not listened to voters in his ongoing efforts to make around 10% of Greater London drivers pay £12.50 per day to drive their aging diesel and petrol cars. And again, that's, if you think about it, a lot of money for some people to pay. It does come down to having more effective and ongoing public transport. And again, as we said, Grant Shapps put on him to say, look, if you want money for Transport for London, you have to expand ULEZ. And until you've expanded the ULEZ system, you don't get the money for Transport for London. And you may remember when we had our talk with Gareth Dennis all that time ago, even he said, look, if you think that, the Tories like funding Transport for London, they don't like funding that either, even though London does get a lot more transport funding than the rest of the country. The Tories still don't want to fund it. They still do not want to fund it. They would love to put the underground completely on driverless trains down in the underground, but that's not going to happen certainly anytime soon, unless they had, certainly, as you've seen, a complete Conservative control in Parliament, and of course they would have to have a Conservative mayor as well. County Kev, good morning to you. Raining in Manchester too at the moment. I'm not surprised. Stanley Beckett, Uxbridge and South Ayrshire is not a poor area. Its average income staff wealth is higher than delivering average. It's very good public transport. It just have a lot of selfish Tories who don't give an F. Potentially, but that's where we've seen the kickback from ULEZ come from, mostly the very sort of poor areas in and around London. But it doesn't surprise me that this wouldn't spread to other people as well. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But like I say, that does seem to have been the issue that has narrowly squeaked their win, as well as apparently the Greens running an anti-ULEZ campaign. Again, I haven't been able to confirm that, but that's one of the things that I saw going around on Twitter, that the Greens were apparently running. Again, I don't know how true that is or not, but we'll see. And as I said, tactical voting, if you are going to do tactical voting, then your entire area needs to commit to it. And like I say, if they had done tactical voting, those votes that would have gone to the Greens and, of course, the Lib Dems, we would have won. Like I say, we're only 400 votes out, so it was very, very narrow. But we'll see. Yep. Tories are finished. They are desperately trying to find anything that works, and they will not. If only the UK could see itself in comparison to their neighbours, say like the Netherlands, start at the airports. Yep, exactly. There needs to be so much stuff done in terms of infrastructure in this country, and it just hasn't been done for well over most of the Tory tenure, to be honest. Mikey Pie, I'm a big fan of bringing back mini cars in cities' environments. Makes electricals more affordable. Go Reliant Pikachu. Oh, the tiny mini cars. I remember when they brought those out, but I don't think they ever really caught on in the UK. They just never caught on. But anyway, we'll go back to see what Will's going to say about this. So, for long-time critics of Khan's expansion plans, this is an obvious moment of satisfaction. But the crowing today of the unpopularity of the London Mayor scheme should pause for thought. Clearly, voters who say that they support green policies in the abstract are less willing to do so than actually asked to pay. But it is the Tories who are currently asking voters to stump up the most for Johnny Polar Bear. The target for net zero emissions by 2050 was introduced in the dying days of Theresa May's government. She also gave us the ban on the sale of new diesel or petrol and hybrid cars, which Boris Johnson's government has then brought forward to 2030 and then 2025, respectively. There is also a ban on the sale of new boilers by 2025, requiring the installation of heat pumps at around £10,000 a pop. And again, if we were to sort of really focus on this, we really need to focus on installations. We really need to focus on things like heat pumps, but they need to be subsidized. This needs to be a very, very government-led program. You cannot leave it in the private sector, because the private sector, well, like I say, they'll charge people an arm and a leg to do it, and they know you've got to do it, so they'll charge whatever they want. And of course, who is going to lose out? Well, it's going to be the poor, who once again are going to be left with boilers which cost far, far more money. And well, we've seen the consequences of that. Oh yes, I did see this. Yeah, Blair didn't win in Uxbridge in '97. He's not a seat that Labour will win, even with a huge majority. Um, Again, like I say, I think it was very much more for a morale moment. Like I say, it would certainly be seen as defeating Boris Johnson. And of course, as someone said, I think on the channel, I can't remember who said it now, but I remember reading the comment from one of you that said it. Um, they said, "Oh well, if Labour, if the Conservatives do win, then Boris can't run around saying, 'Oh, if only I'd have been running or been, left in charge of the party, then I could have won. I could have kept Uxbridge for the Conservatives.'" So, to be honest, the Conservatives winning does sort of shut the door again on Boris Johnson pretending to be um, the big winner that he is. So in a way, even though the Conservatives did win, that does shut the door on Boris Johnson playing the "oh, I could have won" card. So there is that sort of advantage to it. So back to it. So all these changes are going to be vastly more expensive than driving your average Volkswagen Passat from Witwansworth to Neasden. If Uxbridge and South Ruislip is the straw in the wind, these policies are going to be toxic in suburbia. Hence why Craig McKinley, David Frost, and John Wenwood are among those urging the government to overturn its vehicle and heat pump deadlines. And of course, who are these people? Well, they're all part of the net zero scrutiny group. They don't want the UK to go towards these net zero targets. They see them as bad. Of course, they're the climate denial, but of course they wouldn't say that they're climate denialists, but they're stopping everything they can to sort of go in that direction, which is again not surprising, but we'll see. Um, and of course, like I say, this is going to I think be a big argument over the summer about Tory Green policies. I really do think this is going to explode. I think over the summer. But back to it. But something might as well obviously be apparent to the constituency's ex-MP. If he isn't smarting too much over whether he could have stood again in his old seat and won, is the Tories can continue to have their cake and eat it. As with spending cuts that Jeremy Hunt is cannily pricing in for past the next election, it is Labour that looks set based on Selby and Ainsley to be set with the tough choices. Unlike Rishi Sunak, Keir has continued the transition to clean energy in one of his aspirations for government. Although the influence of the Conservatives' environmental network and the commitment of aspirations of eager backbenchers to write net zero articles has grown like the Japanese knotweed in recent years, the Ed Miliband shaped spectre of greenery looms large over Labour. And here's the thing: when it comes to these green policies, it is night and day. It is night and day between Labour and the Conservatives. The Conservatives are constantly arguing, cannot decide over what these green policies should be, except they need to be scrutinised, which is of course the exact same arguments they were using, of course, to fund the Euroscepticism. Of course, we don't want to leave the European Union. We're just being skeptical about the things that Europe are doing. We're just asking questions. Of course, they're doing the exact same things that they did to fund Euroscepticism. Meanwhile, of course, you've got Labour, who are massively on board with all these green policies. They've said, we want more public transport. We want more green business. We want more green energy. We want more green infrastructure. They are lining up to build all these green things and to do these things. And there is no scrutiny. There is no anti net zero group in the Labour Party. They are on board. There's a lot of articles that have been written in the aftermath of the of this by-election to say that Ed Miliband and Rachel Reeves are going to be majorly butting heads against each other over this. But Rachel Reeves and Ed Miliband are on the exact same page. This is not a Rishi Sunak Boris Johnson situation where Boris Johnson wanted to do this, and then Rishi Sunak would come along and say, "Well, here's some money to do what you want. I'm not going to give you all the money, but here's some money to do what you want," and then you can say that it went good. Labour are on board for a lot of green policies and net zero policies, and they will do them when they get into power because they know about the benefits. They are massively talked up, and you've got a lot of MPs who in the Labour Party um, who are massive champions for moving to net zero and how to do it. So the idea that there is going to be this split, that is going to be big decisions, that it's Labour who are going to be left like holding the candle. Well, here's the thing: 13 years of Tory government, they haven't done anything regarding green policies whatsoever because they've just not done them. They've just not been in favour of doing them. Could solar charge electrics be a thing in the UK? Definitely not sarcastic. Well, I don't know, given our weather. I don't know, given our weather. Like I say, well, to be honest, it would be impossible in Scotland if that's the case. You couldn't get away with solar charging anything in Scotland. It'd have to be wind powered. But yeah, it's not too impossible. It's not, you could do it. You could set up, as we said, Keir Starmer wants to set up a green UK sort of sovereign fund for green electricity, so for wind and solar, even some sort of tidal stuff as well that they've sort of talked about. So that's going to be a very big green policy. That's going to be very good when we've got a company that is going to be government run, nationally owned, and it's going around saying, we want green energy, we want green power, we're going to go out and we're going to start doing it. That's going to be good. Of course, the ultimate challenge will obviously be the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. But as we've said before, if you want green policies, don't be upset if they start building wind turbines or these solar energy stuff in your backyard, because that's exactly what you need. And the thing is, as we've said, energy and these green industries, the electricity isn't going to travel that far, but you're going to get the most benefits from these. So we'll see what happens. But like I say, I am very confident that under Labour, we are going to get a lot of very, very good green policies, because you've got a chancellor and you've got a massive champion in Ed Miliband, really, really getting on this and really going to get behind this. So I'm very, very confident in a lot of good stuff happening on that area. One angry pagan. Oh, sorry, I've missed you. Yeah. No trams in Devon and Cornwall were pretty much cut off. It's worse than that. Have to rely on buses, but they've cut a load of the routes. The number of active buses just keeps getting worse and worse. I have heard that. About Cornwall and Devon, that it is an absolute nightmare. That unless you live in Bristol or close to Bristol, you've got next to no buses. You've got next to no train connections, no train stations. I've heard that is an absolute nightmare for public transport down there. So yeah, it's something that to be honest, needs to be done. I agree with you on that. I think one of the big things that would benefit that area is if you could get a metro mayor. But I don't know if they have one down there or not, or if they've even really started talks about that. Sort of, we've seen obviously metro mayors for, sort of the Manchester area. We've got one in sort of South Yorkshire. We've got one for sort of West Yorkshire. You've got Ben Houchen, the only Conservative regional mayor in the UK. So maybe that's an answer. Maybe that's one of the things that we need to look at, setting up a regional mayor for the Cornwall area. Might be one of the ways we can help solve that. Like I say, Ben Houchen, Andy Burnham, that's it. Andy Burnham's Andy Burnham's Andy Burnham, doing a lot of really good stuff with buses on this. So yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, that's very true as well, Maggie Pie. Yeah, hedge funds, yeah, because they need to realize that they can't make money without planet. That's very true. That is very, very true. We need to get them to stop funding oil and non-renewables and get them to start funding green alternatives. Yep, Ben Riley's public transportation is chronically underfunded across the board, except for more elderly Conservative constituencies. Again, that's very true. Oh yes, Jamie Driscoll. Yep, standing as in November. We'll see how well he does. Yeah, you should be able to take a train from Cornwall to Glasgow. I think you said before you're from Denmark. Yeah, yeah. Good luck. Good luck should you ever come to the UK and actually try that. You'll experience the nightmare that is the current UK rail system. You'll experience the UK milestone on that. It will be true. Do you know what hedge fund means? They want a disaster. Well, the thing is, they're the ones who've got most of the money, and while you can sort of claw that back from a lot of taxes and things like that, you should want to encourage hedge funds to actually invest into green technologies, into green new sources of the future. That would be a massive boost for environmental causes. That's not a bad thing. You want them to go in that direction. And like I say, that will be a big boost, especially if you can get private industries. And most private industries are going to go in seemingly that direction. We've had a lot of other stuff go in that direction. Even my own hometown very recently. So anyway, we'll get back to this. Where are we? So yep. Yes, so this is what I was just talking about, the supposed butting heads of Rachel Reeves and Ed Miliband. Rachel Reeves may have managed to water down the party's commitment to spending $28 billion a year on green energy, but Keir Starmer still pledged to bring about clean electricity by 2030 and has shown no sign of wanting to reverse costs on the government's current net zero plans, and has ermed and aired over the wisdom of Khan's ULEZ expansion over the past 2 weeks. Here's the thing. Going to green energy, going to green electricity is the direction that we really want to go. If the Conservatives had fulfilled their commitment back when they first came in under a coalition government, that we wouldn't be in this bad as an energy situation we would be now. We would see. We'd certainly have to wait and see over that, but that's very true. You've tried Birmingham to Manchester and London to Birmingham. UK trains are useless. You're Swedish. Well, yeah, you've got a far better system than us. But yeah, you've definitely experienced the London transport system. That's very true. On that. So yeah, like I say, Starmer's saying, and to be honest, as I've said before, there are a lot of big champions going for the green direction we want to go to. Rachel Reeves, going to be the greenest chancellor we have ever had. Ed Miliband, massive champion for green causes. All the Labour Party are for moving to green sources. They are very, very pro net zero. They want to go in that direction. This is not the Conservative Party you are getting, where they are like, we don't really want to do net zero, but we're not going to publicly say we're going to do net zero. So we're just going to sort of, ask questions and criticize and find any way we can to either slow, delay, or stop these policies from going forward. That's not going to be the case, to be honest, for Labour when they get into government. So, in Starmer's relentless pursuit of government, will Labour's commitment to various green policies just drop away as easily as his previous fondness for nationalisation? Jeremy Corbyn and women. Oh dear. Yeah, I don't even want. I don't even want to say that. Or in office, would have you forced into a series of U-turns as commitments come into force and voter backlash emerges? Well, here's the thing: the only reason you're getting such a voter backlash is because this is being done as many people have said, being done wrong. You're putting the cart before the horse. So rather than you're saying to people, go and invest and you know in this direction for green cars and green transport. But what's the government actually doing to encourage people towards that transition, to get them out of their cars? They're doing nothing. Meanwhile, Labour is openly saying, look, we need better public transport systems. We need more buses. We need more rail. So that is openly very, very good. So you've got a government that generally knows what it wants to do. So once again, this idea that, oh, these pledges are going to be dropped. Well, I don't think so. I really don't think so, because Labour is overwhelmingly pro green, overwhelmingly pro green. And Starmer would face a lot, and I mean a lot of backlash, even from his front benchers, if he did drop some of these stuff. So people saying, oh, they'll drop these green pledges. I don't think they will, because there is a big drive in the Labour Party to go in that direction, to want that. Like I say, you've got no net zero skeptics in the Labour Party. Um, so back to it. Or will Sunak have beaten them to it? If the Prime Minister is either aiming to do anything to win next year, or he will follow my advice and commit his premiership to telling the voters that they need to do, then facing a few hard truths about our net zero commitments will be unavoidable. And here's the thing: Will's advice, you may remember that particular article we went over it, was essentially, well, the government has to commit to more austerity, and that means that we have to drop these net zero commitments. The reality is, if you drop these net zero commitments, it is going to cost your government more in the future to fulfill these commitments. It is going to be very, very bad. And we have seen that voters more and more and more are becoming very, 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 very aware of the environment and issues surrounding this. This is becoming a big voter priority. And going into net zero isn't just about building infrastructure. It's about building new jobs. It's about building a sustainable future for the country, for everyone. And this is something you can even see from this article. It's just focusing on the idea of, well, they're going to have to drop these because there's going to be a big voter backlash. The reality is, time and time again, when it gets explained to voters why net zero is a good thing, they turn on to net zero. They are become very pro positive about net zero. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I've said it before. I think there's going to be a big argument. There is going to be a very big argument between the Green Tories and the net zero scrutiny committee, which, surprise, surprise, most of them are Eurosceptics of what they want to do. It is going to be a big, I think, battle over the summer that we are going to see. Many of those Tories wanting to get rid of like green policies, net zero policies, while you're going to have other Tories that say, no, you shouldn't get rid of that. So that's going to cost, I think, Rishi Sunak a lot of votes, and it's going to cause him a lot of headaches over the summer. But perhaps more likely, as our editor suggested over 2 years ago, that it is and will persist with the slightly cynical tendency that underlies the whole net zero debate. And again, that just goes to show you the attitude that really persists in the Tory party and in these circles. That it's cynical. the idea to subscribe net zero as cynical. Um, no, there are massive benefits to going towards net zero, and Labour is very, very, very much on board with going in net zero. Um, this isn't the Tory party you're dealing with. As I keep on telling people, this isn't the Labour Party is not the Tory party. It is very, very green. It is very, very pro net zero. Um, we have a lot of hope coming down the line and getting to see good green policies going forward in a under a Labour government. Yeah, that's what I hope as well. Get record number of retirements. Exactly, that's what I hope as well. If Starmer's Labour is the same or worse than any of the Tory administration, then I shall eat my hands. Exactly. You've got to understand this isn't as I say keep on saying to many people, this isn't um the Tory Light Party or the Tory B Party. Labour are putting forward genuine policies which are pretty good, but the thing is, they're not as left wing as some people would like them to be. But it's getting you traction in the polls, and as I've said before, it doesn't matter how good your policy is. You could have the best policy ever that would reverse the fortunes of like the UK. It could become an absolute superpower, and you could have it. You could have it all laid out in A to B of this is how you do it and whatever. But if you don't win, if you don't win a general election, you can't implement those plans or ideas. You've got to win elections if you want to get your policies done. So, and Starmer is doing that. And yeah, some of these policies aren't as left wing as sort of people want, but to be honest, they're still pretty progressive. And as I've said before, I think the net zero stuff, the green energy future we want, the green economy that we want to move forward to, Labour is more capable than ever of doing that than a Tory government ever. Because the Tory government has had an opportunity for the past 13 years to do that. And it hasn't even bothered to lift a finger to try and actually achieve that. Yeah, Tim Davis, I agree with you on that. Labour do need to use Angela Rayner more. I absolutely agree with you on that. Yeah, exactly. Just because Labour is not a particular shade of red, some people think that the Tories it's madness. Yeah, exactly. Um, and I also have to think that part of the Uxbridge loss might be because of that as well, because we saw that leading up to this as well. A lot of people, um, you know, bashing Labour. But here's the thing: this Labour government is going to be infinitely better than this current Tory government. But yeah, we've been down this road before, and honestly, it does feel like I'm banging my head against the brick wall sometimes when we ever have this conversation. But it's the same conversation we've been having since Starmer came into office. Oh, if only Jeremy Corbyn had remained in office, we'd be, we'd be about to usher in this amazing socialist future. I don't think so. I don't think so. But there you go. You know my feelings about son of Corbyn. But anyway, let's finish this off. So both parties might, but again, this is very unlikely. One party, well, the Labour don't seem to. Both parties might step back from the zeal that they have shown so far from going green. Some form of target will persist, whether it will hit or not. We will all pat ourselves on the back for trying our best. Again, this is such a ridiculous target thing for Will to say, but again, he's trying to, of course, soothe the savage, bruised egos that they had taken, of course, from from this. So I've said it before. I think there's a lot of progressive things that we can do in not only this parliament but the next parliament. As I will keep on saying it, that look, the Tories are going to be left in absolute disarray. They're going to be. This isn't something they will be able to fix overnight. It will take them at least probably more than a decade to try and sort out. And during that time, we can have progressives from the Lib Dems, from Labour, in Parliament working together to pursue progressive policies. And that is the big win for us. Now, it's a long-term view. It is a long-term view, but it's far, far better to have that happen than maybe the Conservatives remain as some sort of viable opposition. And that's what you don't want to happen. Because then at the moment, they can maybe upset some of these plans that Labour want to do. Maybe you see the Conservative Lords in the House of Lords start to sort of cause trouble as well. That's something, again, we probably need to discuss about sort of the changing of, again, reforming of the House of Lords. Labour have said that that is potentially one of the missions. We don't know what exactly they want to do yet, but they know they want to do something, but it's just what they want to do. And I've said it before, it needs to become an elected House by, again, PR voting. That would be a very, very good way to sort out the situation in the House of Lords. I would also destroy any Tory control of our second elected House. But, of course, as always, thank you very much for joining us on this. It's been very, very fun. Like I said, we've had a bit of an indoor walk, of course, today. But thank you very much for joining us, as always. Like I say, obviously, weather permitting, hopefully next week we'll see if we can get out and about again. Of course, we'll be trying on Wednesday, as we normally do, to have a Wednesday morning walk. Then, of course, until then, like I say, thank you very much for joining us in all this. Like I say, please do remember to click on the like and the share button. There's also the links down below for the Patreon page, the One of Today's link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me a coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. There's the Pony Club as well that you can join on YouTube. But as always, thank you very much for everyone who does help us support the channel. Like I say, please do remember to click the like and share button on your way out. And of course, do remember, if you are watching on YouTube, to leave a comment as well after. That all helps with all the algorithmical stuff as well. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, have a fantastic weekend. As always, keep safe. If you can't be safe, be sensible. And of course, as always, have an absolutely fun weekend. And we'll see you all very soon next time for another Good Morning Walk.